Thank you, whoever that was. Some of you are familiar to this series in the US group. It just started very organically about a year ago, first with small chi groups. And then last fall, it became a monthly series, just really as a way to explore, but really play with Mingjue and Qi science in daily life. Um, so briefly, my name is Cynthia Li, and again, I'm based in California. I'm actually very humbled today because the one of my beloved mentors and the woman who introduced me to Zen and Qigong, Yeshi Newman, is on this call. So it's just and she's enrolled in the class this year, and it's just a beautiful expression of how Mingjie, continues to play with the spiral of life, and also levels all of us, right? like, I'm like, wait a minute, why am I guiding this workshop when Yeshi is here? And so many of you have mentored me and accompanied me on this journey into not so much qigong, but really into the nature of reality, the nature of ourselves. So I just want to give some gratitude for that. So let me just get started. What I'd like to do today is, again, some of this is going to be very organic. So oftentimes it depends on what's happening with the group. But the general framework would be to do some guided imagery and guided practices that can incrementally train us for daily life. It's not just the challenges, it's also the affections that we have, the excitement that we have, where we tend to lose ourselves, right? Or we tend to get attached to the things that we want. So really playing on both ends of the spectrum. And this also, my background is in medicine and healing. And this is also based on it's called incremental training, when we work with really difficult situations or traumas and things like that. So anytime if some of the images are triggering or anything, again, this is going to be your practice. So if we have 30 some odd people right now, we're going to have 30 different practices going on, and yet all shared in the same field, right? Let me find. Okay. All right, can everyone see that? All right, so first of all, just a quick check-in is where are you? Yeah, centering first. And oftentimes when something's up on the screen, our consciousness is immediately out, right? So the very first practice in Mingzhen in daily life is, where are you right now? Are you centered in the middle of your head? Or perhaps in the center of your heart, perhaps in the core of your abdomen, right? So just checking, coming back to yourself, aligning yourself right with heaven and earth. So the crown of the head up towards the sky, feet planted on the floor, connecting with the infinite chi earth below. And this is just again, a really simple but profound shift in how we connect to not just what's on the screen, but really to each other and to our daily lives. So some of the material will be recirculated, just depending on what teacher Wei will be guiding us in. And he tends to, the profound concepts and practices are repeated again and again in different ways So what I try to do in these workshops is to align them with the current teachings of the course. And if you're not enrolled in the course, that's okay too. I try to just make it accessible for everyone. And so what I'd like to do is to try to go through these series of images to the top of the hour. And then for those who need to leave at any time, just please drop off. And then hopefully we'll have 15 or 20 minutes or so after the top of the hour. Or maybe we finish early before that, we have more time, but just for reflections and for questions, right? So in the first couple of months, Teacher Wei has largely been focused on the Qi entirety state. And what does that mean? Well, first of all, this is a consciousness practice, right? Embodied consciousness practice, Mingjue. But, he says that everything is Qi, including consciousness. It's a different levels of subtlety and strength. So in order to understand consciousness, we must understand Qi, right? And again, this series developed because, what I began to find in my own life, but also in people that I was coaching, as well as in these Qi groups, was that our gongfu, our training, our skill to come to the Mingjue state or to come to the Qi entirety state during practice sessions, or also during, our own practices, maybe to recordings or sitting outside in silence, became increasingly empty and harmonized and pure, all these words that reflect Mingjue. But then our daily lives, we would come to our daily lives. And so what I began to find also was that, the more we practice this way and develop that state, and we're not integrating it into our daily lives, the split can become wider and wider. And so then our practice becomes more of a retreat, an escape, rather than something that is transforming our lives, transforming our health, our relationships inside out, right? So really the sooner we can begin to integrate these profound practices, the more we're just going to see that, our lives and our health will naturally transform. Right, so everything in these slides that are in quotes, which is actually most of the text, are direct quotes from Teacher Wei, right? So everything in daily life is a way for you to practice your Mingjue, right? So those of us who say, well, I don't have a lot of time to practice, well, you will find that you have a lot of time to practice. So in daily life, all right? So our dedicated practices are great because it trains us to come into that state so we know what it feels like, right? And then, but if we're not challenged, we can often be misguided, like, oh, I'm in such a great state. I'm, my inner state is really clear and harmonized, and then we get triggered. So life is really, it's the testing ground, right? And we can be a little bit triggered just by that, right? That, oh my God, daily life is such an intense training, right? I just want to be in a really, really good state. Well, daily life keeps us honest. So sometimes we can feel like we're on the backside, right? And that we are feeling trapped by our lives, right? Just all the different conditions, whether it's personal, it's familial, or it's global, it's political, but we just feel like we're increasingly imprisoned, right? Others of us can feel like, oh my God, like this wave, this massive wave is coming down and crashing up on us. And so again, it's all of these are, and then also we can feel like we're just in this tunnel, and life is this maze that is leaving us very, very confused and overwhelmed. So all of these are states that our smaller selves, right, our reference framework when Mingjue is not the master, is not the forefront of our lives, it's very easy to feel this. And I feel it very often, right? And so these are the moments when we begin to feel either in our minds, right? The concept of feeling trapped or overwhelmed, or things are crashing or lost, or if we feel the contractions in our bodies, right? So one of the beautiful ways in which Qi science and these embodied consciousness practices are teaching us also is we become more and more sensitized to our bodies, right? So our conscious minds might say, oh my God, I'm doing great. And then our bodies are completely tense or our symptoms are recurring. And so part of the training is to use those signals. Oh, I've lost myself. I need to come back. Okay. So in this particular, again, in these 2 months, Teacher Wei talks about 2 ways to go beyond our fixations in daily life, right? And so in this particular session, we're going to focus on the Qi entirety state and how when we practice this, when we train our minds to come into this state or to perceive or to observe this state in our daily lives, that our fixations will naturally dissolve, right? It's not something that we have to try to do. We just practice and then they will naturally dissolve, right? And we'll kind of go into a little bit of why that is, all right? And so what I'm hoping is that, and we'll see again what Teacher Wei teaches next time in the next couple of months, but the next session we can go into Mingjue entirety state and how that transforms us as well. So very briefly, I mean, what is the Qi entirety state? I'm just going to give a very brief overview of the concepts, right? So first we have in daily life, we think about, and in our bodies, we usually think about the physical level, all right? So as a doctor, as healers, we also tend to connect with each other at the physical level, all right? And the physical level is amazing, all right? It's astonishing, its complexity and its beauty, and yet it's also very limited. So at the physical level, right, the information that our minds, that our reference frameworks are forming are based on the 5 sensory organs, largely, okay? Excuse me. So that what we begin to define as real is based on these 5 senses. So it's a continual input of information. Now, at the physical level, our bodies are also 60 to 70% water, right? And on the left here, we have the cell membrane. So we are just water. And at the same time, right, have you ever just stopped and wondered, like, if I'm 60 to 70% water, why do I experience myself as solid, right? So it's because, right, the water dimension of us is subtler than the hard, solid components. And then we go even more subtle to the level of the atoms, right? So in Qi science, the definition of the physical reality, the physical level, goes down to the level of the atoms. Okay, so anything subtler than that is going to be in the Qi level. Okay, so you can see even at the physical level, we begin to lose, or we begin to, lose the subtler and subtler dimensions of even our own selves, right? So one of the profound practices is observation, right? Is observation. And Teacher Wei talks about how when our consciousness is weaker, right? We tend to be passive. So we're largely receiving external information, and that dictates the central information that we receive, right? That actually forms us, right? And so when we're feeling lost, when we're feeling trapped, when we're feeling overwhelmed, it's all this information coming and we're passive about it, right? It's just coming and we feel like we have no agency over it. So as we begin to train and train and train and practice and practice and practice, and I will say, and play, right? Ultimately, this is a playful practice. Our consciousness grows stronger and we become active. So in Mingjue, and also as we will see in Qi, at the Qi level, Qi entirety level, energy and information is always sending and receiving, right? So there's an active and passive flow that actually become one. So when we observe, we are both receiving information and we're actively observing it. Okay, so it's subtle, but the more we practice, the more we actually come to experience our active participation. So, right, the gist of Qi entirety is that everything is Qi. Okay, so if this is the only thing you remember, this is actually pretty much everything. Okay. So also, again, going beyond the physical level of the body, right? We have the Qi level. And so we have a Qi body. And science tells us, right, we're 99.99% empty space, right? But this is not a void. It's not nothingness, right? It's subtle, subtle energy fields. So again, at the Qi, in Qi science, right, they define the Qi level as anything that's subatomic all the way down to the quantum particle. Right? So there's also the Qi of everything, right, or everything Qi, so that we begin to train ourselves to not just know, but to observe and perceive, sense that everything around us, everything within us is Qi. Right? So we live in a Qi universe, right? The entire planet, the entire solar system, galaxy, and beyond is Qi. So why this matters to our own personal lives, right, in our daily lives, is that that when at the Qi level, right, there's a natural merging and transforming between us and our environment, between us and our universe, right? And the Chinese phrase for that is 天人合一, that we and the formless realm, heaven, we are one. So when we come to experience this, I am the Qi entirety, right? This is, again, these are just visuals, right, that might be able to help you experience or conceptualize, right, that energy is in continual flow, right? Everything is always changing, right? So whatever visuals, again, we're going to start going into those. Whatever's useful for you, please keep. Whatever is not, just, you can close your eyes if you want. You can just gently detach from those, okay? And so I am one with the universe, right? So the deeper we go into our practices, the more we train ourselves to perceive everything, right? That there's this profound unity, serenity. But then we come into the living room of our lives, right? So where is that Qi universe? Right, so as Teacher Wei reminds us many, many times, right, this is a process. And so, again, before we go into more visuals, I just invite you to do a check on yourself. Where are you? Who are you? Just returning to yourself. right? So this workshop itself is a practice because we didn't set a nice field, not yet anyways. Can you come back? Right? So the first method that, or one of the methods, he's given us many tools in these couple of months, but one of them is the shu sound, right? So the shu sound, as he taught, was described by the ancient sages, right? Not just as the concept of the emptiness of the universe, but as the vibration and sound of that state, right? So it's profound because when we begin to practice this, we begin to attune ourselves directly to that vibration, to that sound, to that experience, right? And the shu sound, just to review, when we make the shu sound, form turns into formless, and the formless becomes finer and finer, right? So if we say shu for, 10 times, we can become emptier and emptier. If we practice this for an hour, 2, 3, you can imagine the emptiness states that we can come into, all right? So before we go into the series of images, I'm just going to invite us to practice the shu sound very briefly, right? Again, this is about integrating into daily life. So I'll guide us in a very brief practice, and these briefer practices are going to be building upon your longer practices, okay? This is where all the gong fu of all the live sessions you've joined and all the practices you've done are going to support your practice in daily life, right? So I just, one of the easiest ways, right, even in daily life, to come into the emptiness is first to close our eyes. And so by the simple act of closing, we realize how easy it is, right? Those of us who are sighted, that we can easily fixate on the physicality of life, the physicality of our bodies, our identities. And so just closing the eyes, drawing consciousness back into the center of your head, and taking a few deep breaths into lower dantian. With each breath, your body becomes finer and finer. The boundary of your body, the physical boundary, dissolves. With the next few breaths, the physicality of the room that you're in, or the yard, the surroundings, everything dissolves into qi. I invite you to make the shu sound. Right? So one of the things in daily life is we can think the shu sound, but because of the loudness, the hardness, the fastness of life, it can be easy to overwhelm the quiet. So in daily life, it might be helpful, right, just to make the sound, bring it into the realm of physicality, of sensory. So we begin to meet daily life where it meets us. Shoo. And still keeping your eyes closed, consciousness resting in lower dantian. Just experience your chi body with each breath, not just drawing in air, but drawing in chi through all the chi pores of your chi body. Right? Any areas of tension, just dissolve. Chi is flowing freely, and you are centered in your chi body. All right, so with your eyes closed, your awareness primarily in your center, just drawing your peripheral awareness to the room around you as chi. And drawing your peripheral awareness to all of us coming together, practicing. Just taking a few moments to observe with that inner eye. All of us, beyond our identities, beyond our names, our locations, just as pure chi bodies. Breathing the same chi atmosphere. Connecting us in time and space. Yeah, connecting with Teacher Wei, Dr. Pong, all the other practitioners in this beautiful community. Connecting to our families, the trees, the oceans. Everything is chi. So even as we are centered in our own chi body breathing, with each breath, we experience the oneness of everything. Yeah, so you can either stay right here. Again, this is your practice. And just practice connecting with the space that you're in, right? That transitional zone between the chi entirety and your physical environment. Or I invite you to, if you're called to, you can open your eyes and we'll go through some images. Right? And as we go through them, I invite you to continue to stay connected to your breath in lower dantian. If you're able, connect to yourself as chi. If you feel like you're losing yourself at any point, make the shu sound, right? Or think the shu sound. So again, we're in a safe place. And I also invite you to observe anything that emerges from your chi body as we go through these images. And anything that emerges can dissolve readily into the chi atmosphere all around us, right? Because it's just chi, right? Emotions, thoughts, sensations, all chi. Everything is changing in every moment. All right. So we'll just begin with a couple of very neutral images. Right. So we just begin to toggle between the physical form that we think we're interacting with and also the chi nature of everything. And so switching from some experiences that might be more challenging to ones that we might love. Just recognizing everything as chi. This is Lao Tzu, right? One of the sages that Teacher Wei is referenced a lot. And he encourages us, right? Do not attach to them, their identities, even their words. Connect to their state that they're teaching and embodying. Right, so now we're kind of increasingly going into transitioning into more ordinary life. Right? So connecting in your own practice to everything as chi. Everything is chi. The empty spaces, the walls, right? And you as a chi body walking through this corridor. Chi body. qi medicines, qi sterile hospital room. Everything is qi. Right, now the second method, at least that we're going to do for today, that he has taught us, that we've been practicing, is open and close. All right, so this is something that we can pair with shu or without it, but it's a very powerful way to observe and begin to perceive the qi essence of life. Right, so staying connected to your beautiful state. And again, if you feel like you are a little bit triggered, if emotions are coming up, thoughts, also connect to the beautiful qi field of this group. Right? Relaxing into the field. Relaxing into the much, much bigger field that supports us. Right? It's like a big universe-sized womb. Right? So can we relax into that? Can we dissolve and empty into that? Right? So this is a very different practice than an individual practice. It's a collective and unitive practice. So I invite you to, again, I'm just going to guide a very, very brief practice, but open and close, right? Holding a qi ball in front of lower dantian. If you prefer, you can hold it right in front of Hunyuan Palace, at the level of the pancreas, just below the ribs. You can also hold it in front of middle dantian for the heart space, the lungs space, right? So again, closing your eyes, coming into your body as subtle, flowing, pure, and balanced qi. And just gently opening and closing. Right, first leading from the elbows. And leading from the elbows so that the breath follows the elbows. And the hands are holding a qi ball, opening and closing. All right, now shifting, right? So in that case, the arms, the qi arms are leading and the breath is passive. Now with each inhalation, right, as lower dantian or middle dantian or Hunyuan Palace expand, the qi arms naturally expand and open. Right, and as the breath, as you exhale, and the energy centers contract, so do your qi arms and hands. You're just connecting to the energy space, again, as pure emptiness. Empty but not empty. It's the purest, finest energy field. And you're drawing in the purest, finest energy from the qi atmosphere. So what's happening with open and close is that your hands are becoming more and more attuned to the subtle qi atmosphere that's all around you. Also connecting to the qi universe that's within you. Yeah, so it's almost like we're fish and we're opening and closing with this chi medium, right? We're immersed in it. It's flowing in and out of us. And it's everywhere and it's so subtle. And that's why we can't perceive it. But with our eyes closed and with open and close, we can return to it. Right, so with each open and close, it's like you're harmonizing this beautiful universal field. Right? It's like you're a fish playing with the water. But you're not just playing with it, you're harmonizing it for the benefit of the oneness. So when we are in a quieter place, when we are in our practices, right, it's very strengthening for Mingzhi, for our consciousness, for our chi bodies, to practice this way where the breath is primary, right? Consciousness is primary, and the chi hands follow passively. Now, in our daily lives, when it's hard for us, when we've lost ourselves, when we're feeling overwhelmed, it can be really useful to reverse it, right? Use the chi arms to help organize and harmonize and purify consciousness, right? It's like the rhythm of the chi arms can help us return to ourselves, return to the chi entirety of everything. Yeah, so in your practices, I do encourage you to, again, to toggle between these two different ways. On the outside, it looks the same, right? On the inside, they're very different experiences. Right, so if anything begins to trigger you, right, in any of these practices or in your daily life, it can be really helpful, right? Sometimes even the vibration of the sound cannot bring us back to ourselves. Couple the sound with movement. Yeah, so this is how Mingzhi can actually use, right, the sensory organs, the physicality, and the subtlety of our bodies for its own awakening. Right? So you can stay right there, or you can open your eyes. And maybe, even if your eyes are open, just continue practicing open and close. Right? So a lot of, people have heard me say, a lot of Mingzhi and Qi science practice is two timing, right? It's like patting our heads and rubbing our stomachs, like is practicing while we are doing something, right? So getting the rhythm, right? So again, we can use images, again, using form, right, to enhance our experience of the Qi entirety, right? So here it's like, it helps us understand that there's actually I don't want to call it a thing because it's not matter, but it's a thing in terms of reality, right? There's some entity between our palms and it connects with the entire universe. right? So when we begin to practice open and close, it can help us also connect to what we call the negative spaces, right? The spaces that we tend to not even see or perceive. Right? In daily life, we begin to see these spaces as positive, as teeming with qi, right? As well as the things that we define as positive things. Everything is qi, right? So we can use our physical world to find experiences where we're training ourselves to see the qi that's connecting everything and is infusing everything, right? So what we call problems, right, or challenges in our daily life, they're attachments within our consciousness, right? So, and then what happens to your attachments when you know and perceive everything as qi? What happens? Right? They naturally disappear. Right? So it's a natural side effect of these two very profound but simple practices. Right? The attachments happen at the level of identity, form, right? And the material world. So can we begin to experience, right, our symptoms or our conditions as pure energy, right? Energy wanting to move. How does that shift our relationship to whatever stirs within us? Right? What about our relationships? Right? If this is someone that you have a really difficult relationship with, who's walking towards you. Maybe it's someone that you adore, someone you just made love with. How does it shift your experience of these people, right? To experience them as chi bodies. Right? Same with our communities and the society, right? What if everything we encounter, we experience and observe and perceive as chi? Right? So as we begin to bring that into the physical world, how does it change our perception? Can we see the empty fields that this beautiful priest is harmonizing, is merging with? And this is what's happening each time we are practicing. We're just harmonizing the oneness. Right? Now this is more reality. Okay, so staying connected with your breath. And again, this one is bringing in the element of sound. Okay, so again, I've been very intentional about everything's been silent because we're working with just the sense of vision, right? The more senses that we bring in, the more we can get attached to the physical world, right? And then we lose ourselves, we lose the chi entirety. So continuing to stay connected to yourself as chi, as everything as chi, and just practicing, observing everyone and all the music and everything in this particular clip as a manifestation of this chi universe. Pretty astonishing chi universe, huh? So the more we practice these, right? Again, the prisons that we might feel like we're in, whether it's in our bodies, our families, our world, right? They begin to dissolve. Right? They totally begin to dissolve. And that we can even begin to see that these bars, these mental constructs are just chi as well. Right? Now, practicing at the chi entirety level is profound and it can transform our lives and our health. And I just want to end on this, right? Because we can also become attached, just the way that we are, we can become attached to chi, whether it's the sensations in our body, whether it's, again, the chi universe, right? The emptiness of everything. We can become attached to that, right? So, which is really why the practice has to go to a different level of Mingjue, of consciousness, where consciousness, very similar to this chi entirety, consciousness is one. All right. So when we come to that level of practice, we can experience the chi entirety without attachments. All right. Great. So we are just about at the top of the hour, and I just want to do a check-in, right? For those of you who are able to stay, we have about 15 minutes, 18 minutes, just to share reflections. And if there are questions, I just invite you to hold them at least a little bit towards the end, because questions tend to take us into thinking mode, as opposed to observation mode. Literally changes our brain waves. And in the silence between the shares, if there are any shares, I invite you to really practice. If you're not in gallery view, I encourage you to be on gallery view, just to observe each other, chi body to chi body. Look at all these luminous chi bodies, right? And those of you who are off camera, it's perfect. I mean, it's easier to connect to you as a chi body, because we see your black screen, but we can sense you. So just taking a moment, to behold each other. It's especially a practice when we know each other, more personally. We know our personalities. We know our professions. We know our families. But just observing as if you've never encountered these beings before. Who are you? All those things we think we know about each other. It's less than 0.01% of the totality of who we are. Yeah, Donna.
So what I appreciate, Cynthia, is your ability to use your reference framework to really transform these theoretical concepts into conscious awareness. It is a gift that you use with humility, authentic humility. And this teaches me how to use my reference framework in service to the entirety. And I thank you. Thank you.
Mm. Thank you, Donna. Thank you. Yeah, the reference framework is our world, our physical world, in the world of ideas, it's a powerful, beautiful tool, right? As long as we remember that Minja entirety, right, is the creator behind it all, right? Otherwise, those tools use us. We become enslaved. So yeah, thank you, Donna. Thank you for your beautiful being and doing. Anne? Do you want to unmute?
I could relate to many different things, but what I'd like to especially thank you for is the visualization of the doctor and medicine turning into chi. So when I go to doctors that are not familiar with qigong and they don't use the reference frameworks as Donna described how you do, then I could just see them as chi, just dissolving, to who they really are, just like any of us, just chi. I think that'll help. That'll help me emotionally
Mm.
be less attached to my emotional reactions to things they might say, with the best of intentions.
Yes, great. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I think, one thing you bring up something that it reminds me of something that I learned, and I've been continuing to learn on my own in my own life, is also how the reference framework can also distort the chi entirety practice as well. Is that, the things that I don't like, right? I'm going to dissolve that. And then but really and I think that that's why the entirety state is the key here. Of course, Mingjue, going back to consciousness, is really the foundation. But is that it's yeah, for me, I found myself, oh yeah, you know what? Again, ascribing positive or negative, and then okay, this is chi. So what was profound for me was also doing the chi practice for the things that I love, right? Because I'm attached to those things. And I went through a lot of grief because I'm like, I would practice doing these visuals like with my daughters, or with our dog, or like, and, Teacher Wei too, he's like, don't attach to me, and you just see, oh, such beautiful forms, and like, I want them to stay in the form. And then it just began to equalize things. It's like, oh, I'm doing that with the negative things because it makes it easier. And that's a reference framework coping mechanism. And so, yes, absolutely. We practice it, bringing it into the hospitals, bringing it into our doctor's visits, or whatever is challenging. And it's really about, oh, we are one, right? And so, again, I'm just sharing that from my own experience of catching how quickly the reference framework can use things, to cope. But it distorts the essence of the teaching and the practice. So thank you for that, Anne.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tom.
Very profound. What really set the tone for me was your opening statement that practice can become, if the main focus is just on the morning practice when we do this together, and then we leave it in everyday life, it creates separation. That was really profound for me, because I can see that if practice is a sweet spot and I'm out in daily life, I always want to be back in practice. It's almost like practice becomes a drug, and I always want to be drugged. And versus when I integrate it into my life, it becomes my life. And I could see that that's a journey. That practice is still going to be probably easier because it's so focused, but the deeper commitment to practicing in everyday life was really brought forward. And I really, really appreciate that. Really, really shifted my awareness about why that matters so much. And emotionally for me, just the whole release I get in practice with this group, it becomes an attachment. Does that make sense? And then in daily life, I'm waiting for the next practice to give me the next injection,
Yes.
right? Versus taking it on and really taking practice on um, as the real thing, the real deal, like what we're really up to, what I'm really up to. So.
Beautiful, Tom. Thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. It's a drug like no other, and it's yeah, it's powerful, but when we practice it, you're absolutely right. When we integrate it and we recognize like this is actually the reality, right? It's not a drug. It is our reality, and it is everywhere. Do we have, the minds and the hearts and the bodies to perceive and to receive it? So, absolutely. And that's, that fork is so powerful, right? Because yet the stronger our practices, and it can be very difficult to bridge. So, thank you for that. Absolutely. And that's the thing is, yeah, we can get attached to the chi entirety, we can get attached to our practice, to the state. We can get attached to all sorts of things. Which is where the humor is too, and the humility. It's like, wow, thank you. Yeah, Linda.
Hi. So this was deeply profound. And what I want to say is my analytical mind, my intellectual mind can't actually comprehend what just happened. And I'm actually very grateful for that, because I know on a deeper level, um, I get it. I'm experiencing it. And the attachment is that my analytical mind really wants to understand everything and incorporate everything and do everything exactly as I am supposed to. So lots of attachments. And what happened for me was I was able to observe. As my responses, I was able to go, no, oh, notice that, notice that, notice that. So it's such a gradual, subtle change experience And part of what I get to learn is letting go of the attachments of having to comprehend and understand everything that's happening. So I'm
Yeah.
very grateful for that.
Thank
It's
you.
a challenge.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Well, if we receive the challenges as play, right? It's like it's a it's a challenge. Yeah. And if there weren't challenges, life would be pretty boring, you know? So it's you know, and to your point and to Tom's point, actually to everybody's point, you know, we have our own unique areas of attachment. And so part of the practice is observing ourselves and coming to know what those are, you know, or how tricky is the reference framework, right? Oh, how tricky for me to dissolve things into chi, you know, it's tricky. And then it becomes humorous, like, oh my God, like I'm still doing it. And one way, you know, again, why I like working with these visuals is it's this incremental training zone, right? So like to go from this, you know, this trance state in practice to, you know, to going to, I don't know, like a protest or walking into your kid's school or going to a hospital can be very, very difficult. There's no transition, right? So how do we, okay, like after this call, you know, maybe Tom, you go clean the toilet, you know? Can you do that, right? And no, Annalise did not pay me to say that. But can you do these things that are not triggering, you know, or triggering in a very small way in that state, right? So like if you join group practice and you're in this beautiful state, or you're practicing by yourself and in your beautiful state, um, that time right after practice is really important, right? Yeah, sometimes, you know what, time's up and we got to go to work, or time's up, we got to go do something, to an appointment. But if you have that space, carve that time out for continued practice in your daily life. You know, and Teacher Way says, oh, you know, maybe sweep, right? Sweep in this beautiful state. So do something neutral. Maybe you do something you love. Go out in the garden, right? But again, just in terms of healing work, we want it to be a little bit challenging, right? Otherwise, there's no challenge, there's no growth. We can't see actually where our attachments are and where we need to train. So do it incrementally, you know? And so if you're going to have a doctor's appointment, maybe again, you sit with an image, right? Just on your laptop. Or maybe you close your eyes and you're just visualizing yourself going into an appointment. You begin working there, right? Work there. And then it can transform the actual experience. But it's got to be incremental, and we do need to go into the places that are uncomfortable. All right. And let me just ask Donna, hold on a second, and let me just see if there's anyone else who hasn't shared who would like to share. Yeah, Rebecca.
Thanks, Cynthia. Yeah, profound class. Uh, what I really connect and appreciate is connect to was the information of when you showed the puppies and you talk about your daughter and all of the positive images, which, you know, if you're dealing with, there's a lot of things that are frightening or whatever. And that the word term grasping. So it could be grasping for the beauty or grasping for something to shift your fear or whatever. And that was a really profound teaching for me, that the non-duality, and to be reminded again of that non-duality, and to it looking at everything as chi. And that's a really beautiful practice. That was eye-opening and extremely helpful for me.
Mm.
So
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that share. Just, yeah, we all have different areas to work on. And anyone else? And then I will close it out with Donna. Yeah, Donna, you want to close it out?
So my experience has been a state of looking at the world and seeing it as unreality. Nothing seems real. And I came to the awareness that the only thing that is solid or real is the entirety, on the state of no separation. And when I get involved in my chaos, dropping into that it's my salvation.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, I'll just close with this comment based on what you raised, is that what I appreciate about this, these teachings, the theories, and the practice is that it's not that the physical reality is an illusion, right? That it doesn't exist. It's that because it does, but it's very, very small, right? Like I said, it's like 0.01% or less. It is just a manifestation it's an expression of qi, right? It's another level of qi. And so what can happen, and I've coached qigong practitioners, but also patients, right? Is when we merge at the level of physicality and identity, actually pathology can arise, right? We're fusing with people, we're fusing with their identities, and yet really the oneness state, as you pointed out, Donna, happens at the qi level, happens at the consciousness level. And so at the physical level, we celebrate, like in that beautiful video clip of the Vivaldi symphony in the mall, is there's a diversity, there's an individuality, there's a fractalization of this qi, and we get to play, we get to see the qi entirety and its infinite expressions. And it's such a small part though, but at that level, like all of us, in our identities and our physicality, we're each unique. But we lose the oneness, which is the vast majority of reality. And so, yes, absolutely. That's a beautiful point, Donna. And I'm just bringing that up because of, my reference framework and working with people and my own obstructions, where we can get attached. Where we get attached at the physical level and merge, distortions also happen. So, all right. Well, I hope you guys are still connected to the emptiness within you. Connect to that core. I'm going to invite you all to unmute yourselves, right? Because we tend to think of an empty universe. We tend to think outside of us. There's an equally infinite universe. It's the same universe deep within, right? So it's from that place that the oneness hala arises. Yeah. So feeling it deep within you, emerging as a vibration that then manifests as sound through your beautiful being. I invite us all to share a collective hala. Hala.
Ah,
I'd love to hear how you guys are practicing and how the chi entirety is manifesting in your lives. Okay. Have a beautiful day, night, wherever you are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.